Duke, you suck.
You shut your mouth!
Welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. And now, Duke Durango.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. I'm here with my new friend. We just met here about 2 minutes ago. Tom Big Nasty O'Connor, man. Welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on here. Great to meet you. And I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. It's nice to meet you as well. You came on my radar. We have a mutual friend, a guy that knew you through rugby, named Bob Rama. Shout out Bob Rama and Eco Yards.
Unreal. Shout out to him for sure. Yeah, rugby, it goes right into it. Rugby,
yeah, man, MMA, for sure.
That was an easy transition.
Well, he knows I watch MMA, and then obviously he follows you, so he sends me an email here. It was the fight before the last one. I watched the two XFC fights, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I know this kid through rugby. We got to, So we set a big date, and he came over, and we watched the fight. And of course, you beat down Kacharis. So yeah, man, it was really awesome. I was like, "Oh shit, you know this guy?" Like, it was a really cool thing.
So you guys watched that fight at your place? Yeah. Oh, sick! That is awesome.
Yeah, man. It was a really good time. Yeah, that was a good fight. Like that was.
It was a good production. I've been telling everyone or my whole close circle how much I learned from that, and just seeing a little bit bigger pond, open up and go and travel a bit with it, and so it was a humbling experience too, and just going and seeing another organization and actually getting to travel in the middle of a pandemic, like. It was whatever's going on, like the travel, it was pretty cool to get that opportunity in the midst of all this. And it was definitely a huge learning experience. One of the things was this is one of the reasons I do the sport, is the opportunity to travel and see the world. And every single culture does martial arts. Everyone, fighting. That's why one of the reasons we love it so much is it is human. Everybody loves it.
It translates in every country. There's some sort of grappling or fighting.
Yeah, exactly. It just comes down to it. That's a human thing. So one of the things is getting to travel, and then just how much I learned, and just there's levels to the game, and a bit of a good wake up call to that. And the fight was awesome too. So that was great.
Those were both good fights. I mean, you lost the decision in the next one there in the final of the tournament, but man, you showed well. And I think at 55, I think those guys are so long, man. They're so fucking tall.
Yeah, my second fight, DeMonte, I'm trying to wrestle him, and he's got wrist control. I'm like, oh, he's got all the way wrapped around me, completely around my back, and still gets that wrist control. I don't experience that very often in the gym.
No. And that's what I say. Like I had a buddy that fought MMA, a guy called Jared Evans, and that's what he was such a thick guy, and I just thought, man, those guys are so long in that 185 weight class, because he was maybe, 5'8", 5'9", and, cut to 185.
And 185, that's big, yeah.
Yeah, and he did okay. I think he was 4-3 when he packed her in, but, I mean, still, those guys are long, Plus, I just give respect to you guys for getting in there. Like, geez.
Yeah, of course, that's just one of the crazy things is the experience in general, right? And, anyone that gets in there, you have to show respect to that, because it's just getting in there in the first place. But I love that. What the martial arts, as you level up that any body type, there's any body type, you just play to your advantages, whatever your body type is, you got to play to your strengths, play to your attributes, and the game plan kind of gets dissected from there.
Yeah. Well, I watched a lot of your fights, and I noticed when you fight at 155, you're fighting some pretty long guys as well, but you close that gap so fast. It's impressive to watch, man.
Well, it's the classic, I've always been called the bull in the china shop. If you see me around the house, nothing's quiet. I'm dropping things all the time. So I take that right into the fight. Just okay, head down, go for him, go after him. I mean, I'm there to fight, so make it a fight. And
you
for the long guys, it works
exciting.
Well if they're longer, because I have to be in range,
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. So I think at 45, man, I'm actually really excited to watch you fight at 145.
Yeah, that's the next transition, and that was kind of one of the takeaways from that last one, just being, fighting a guy so much longer. He was strong, but I didn't feel a big strength gap. it was just some of the leverage points I could tell, like, oh, you know what, if the wrist control on the fence, like that was a huge one. I was like, okay, well, he's just long enough to get it and strong, but I didn't feel a strength gap, but I just am like, well, I take that style down to 145, and I think that plays well in my strengths. And
100%.
I would not saying 155 is out of the cards, but I'm excited to try and go down to that new chapter a little more professional, a little sharper.
Well, I mean, I think your win-loss record at 155 proves you can hang there for sure. Right. So, you know, like you say, you can kind of do wherever there's an opportunity, you can go as long as you like making that cut to 45.
Yeah. And the cut the last few times I worked with my wrestling coach, Vlad, and the past 2 times I went to 145 wasn't bad. I've only went there 3 times. First time was awful. The last 2 times weren't terrible. And the very last time I was, you start to get used to it and the system gets a little bit sharper. Yeah. But I definitely can tell, like, it's like any, and MMA is becoming such an elite sport now versus just, this guy versus that guy, 2 different styles. Like now it is becoming this fine-tuned sport, and I can tell the inches make up the mile, every little advantage you can get. And so if I can cut there, and when I walk around really lean and strong, I'm in that weight class anyways. Like that is the best weight class for me.
Right. Well, and that's one thing people don't understand, the difference between being really good, being elite, and being great. You know what I mean? Like a lot of us can be really good, very few can be elite. And like you say, those little things make the difference.
Huge difference. And it's that's what makes it so exciting in any elite sport, and I'm lucky because my other job is I work at a strength and conditioning, like a performance gym.
Okay.
For mostly hockey athletes, but we work with all athletes. And it's awesome learning from Trevor Hardy there about that, every little detail matters. And when you're trying to compete with the best, you're trying to fit in to the 1%, or less, that top tier. Well, then that's when it does matter. If you just want to do it as a hobby, and you can see, and you can really see that the higher level you get, right? Sometimes you don't feel that. That's what XFC kind of showed me, is like, okay, well, you know what? I see these levels, and I want to compete at the best. I want to compete with the best. So you see, okay, start making these professional changes.
Right. Well, and some guys, it'll make them shy away, and some guys like yourself, it will make them hungrier. It will make you more disciplined to get there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's exciting to do that, right? It's like you see, and not that MMA is for everyone. That's one thing. Is like I just had I had a jiu-jitsu seminar with Joe Moreira, and he comes in, he talks about that. He's talking, I love this martial art, and I love to show it to everyone. And you get that there's levels to it for everyone, and everyone can partake and learn from it at any age, any body type, any sex, whatever it is, you can all learn from it. But competing at the highest level, you want to fit in that 1%, those details and discipline matters.
Well, and that's the difference, I think, a lot of times, is discipline. Do you know what I mean? Like I used to have this coach, man. If you ever get a chance to come to Calgary and train with a guy called Clive Llewellyn, take every opportunity you can to sit under this guy's learning tree. And he would come to us, and you'd be doing a fireman's carry in wrestling, and he would see your hand just in the, a little bit off, just a touch off to the wrong.
Literally a centimeter off,
Yeah, he's like, your finger could just be a little bit closer to his butthole, and then he'd say, "Oh, do it again, and then all of a sudden you'd hear him go, "Good again, and he'd make you do it over and over. Finally, you'd be like red in the face, and he'd be like, "Okay, good job." You know what I mean? Like you do it 25 times before you got
it closer to your 10,000 reps type thing. Yeah, exactly. It's funny how sometimes like the masters of that are teaching you down and you learn from the people you at that time may consider your masters or whatnot, and they'll change, like you said, like an inch closer to the butt, right? Or this tiny adjustment, and in your head it's like that makes no deal. Like that doesn't make a big deal. Come on. But then you feel it, and you get that light bulb moment that's like, oh,
it's just a little tighter, right? Like it's just that little bit tighter.
The difference of landing the takedown or not,
especially at the elite level.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you might get away with that shit at his attitude was always like, you might get away with that shit in high school.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
If you want,
and especially, you know, I find it interesting, the levels, as you go through the levels, is like we're saying, the body types, all these different things, is everyone's got different attributes. And sometimes, you know, you got some athlete or some guy competing and they're just so strong. So they get away with it. You know, the strength, jiu-jitsu is always a really good example of that. Is someone stronger, they're getting away with all these things. And then over time, the person who's more technical, all of a sudden the strength is now what was their advantage is now their disadvantage, because they relied on that. And you see that so constantly.
Well, especially in grappling. Right?
Yeah.
It really shows through in grappling. And some guys in boxing with punching power, but eventually, you got to learn some defense.
Sometimes just that some like physical toughness, you know, just can take a hit. But the big leaps and bounds come from the work put in, right? Is either the technical reps, your skills get sharpened so much, or vice versa, your kind of physical attributes get developed so much. You put your time in the gym, get that much stronger, get that much faster. Conditioning, you see in MMA, that really is what separates you from the top.
One thing that I really saw with you versus especially in your first amateur fight, that poor kid gassed out so bad. Taylor Macklin, that
great
poor kid,
good and like physical athlete, Brody, all these. He's a tough kid, but he just gassed again. You can see just.
Well, and you've always had that though. Like I could see in your fights, there's another. I want to say Dustin something. The big guy looked like an action figure. You know what I mean? Like
Dustin Winter,
big guy, and man, he blew up.
That work rate, right? Keeping that work rate. That's one thing I love that comes from wrestling too, right?
Yeah, but your gas tank is sick.
And that's something I'm happy. Like I want to keep working and keep improving, but it's just definitely one of the let's say attributes that I like to rely on, and something that it's definitely one thing that I like to take advantage of. Is I say that all the time in the camps is, well, you know what? I'm gonna start at level 1. It doesn't mean I'm gonna go speed up, speed down. It's just going to be a constant increase from minute 1 to the 15th minute of the third, or if we're in a championship, the 25th minute. I want it to be more intense, the pace to be higher pace at the end of that than at the start. I don't want to dip at all. And so it's the mentality. I mean, it's not always the reality. I felt I feel that. But that mentality is definitely what I want to keep. And something I like. That's
kind of a scary thing, right? Like you say, if a guy can be throwing his best stuff at me with, you know, at minute 14 of that fight, and you're still throwing hard punches, that's a big advantage.
Oh, it's huge. And like you said, the mentality, right? Like that mentality of eventually if they break if they give you a centimeter, well, you can take a foot. You know, if they give you a little bit of time, you can make it a minute of just brutal. Because
I seen you break 3 guys, like 3 guys in there specifically. You could see, I don't want to be in this fight anymore. I'm just going to do this.
The break,
still stop it, which is hilarious.
It's one of my favorite parts is like just looking across in between rounds, and you see they broke, you know.
Yeah.
They don't want to be in there anymore. It's too much work. They don't want to be there. And in mid fight, when it happens mid round, that's even better is you can capitalize on a finish very often.
Right.
But I've felt it myself too, where like I like the idea of, you know, never gassing, but I felt it, and so it's always something you got to be working hard to improve, because I like you said, at the higher levels, everything's faster. And so as I go up, I'm like, okay, well, I need to make sure my conditioning can outwork not just this person's conditioning, but it can match their speed, or I can make an advantage out of their speed or their advantages, and make sure that my conditioning can work them down and break them down.
Well, when you were in that Dustin fight in particular, you noticed even halfway through the first round, you were just walking him down at that point. Right. Yeah. Like you could see he was tired. He was backing up. He was circling. Right. And you just kept walking. So by the end of that first, he was gassed. And
that's the scariest thing. Eh?
I don't want to piss on anybody, but I felt sorry for Chip. You fought a guy called Chip
Wiggins.
Yeah. Now,
a 4th amateur fight, or a 3rd or 4th amateur fight.
Right. And no disrespect to him in any way, shape, or form, because I've never gotten an octagon, so I will never, ever disrespect anyone that's come in there. Yeah. But he had somebody cheering for him that I could hear over the fight, and some poor lady screaming in the crowd, like, "Come on, Chip," the whole time. And if I was him, I would have been like, "Hey, can you shut up?"
Yeah, I can't hear this anymore. And he's in a bottom position, you know, tired, gassed out. Like,
so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, it's funny sometimes. Like you've seen it if you're watching much UFC in the when they were in the Apex and there was no crowd and you just hear everything. And it was same thing is like sometimes you have a fight card, and it's one of the exciting things about the fight card is the fans, and it just you could hear anything yelling out, like just crazy shit, just like sometimes the cornering, you're like, what is that? Punch him in the face. Well, thanks for that, no doubt. I'm gonna try and do that, right?
Yeah, I was hoping to do that, but he keeps moving his head, coach.
Yeah. So, you got any other advice? Kick him in the face. Well, okay, I'll give that a shot, right? Like it's funny hearing that. And then like too, like you hear real good cornering, and it's like, oh, that's a work of art too. They see that again. We're talking about the difference from amateur to pro to really that elite level. The advice, everything is just fine tuned so well, and so that's something that on the coaching side, a few of my coaches took away from the XFC trips and the last few trips is like, hey, we can sharpen everything. Let's just have that growth mindset to be like,
right,
well, what can we improve? Let's make sure it's better. Improve it, right?
Yeah. Well, I always say the first word in professional fighter, and being from somewhat a professional wrestling background, I would say the first word is professional. So the more professional you can be, that just carries over. It's
so funny because I've said that in past, like when I was maybe 5 years ago, between then, I would say that. But it's almost like I didn't know exactly what it meant, and now I'm starting to come into that where I'm like, okay, I really see the difference of, saying these things and actually meaning them and knowing that, hey, if this is what you want to do, you got to be that professional. That's the way you want to be, right? That's the way you should be.
Well, and having been somebody that went from say amateur wrestling into pro wrestling, and I love pro wrestling, so I don't make this minimize anything, but I never planned on being a pro wrestler. I was an amateur wrestler. So when I got into pro wrestling, I was passionate about it because it was a way to get paid and keep on wrestling. So that was the appeal for me. Right. But then later on, I realized, like, you hear about Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he would like sleep in his car waiting to go train and eat potatoes because he didn't have money for food. And I can tell you right now, I was never that hungry. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a big thing too. You have to be, first and foremost, you have to be hungry. And then you got to be professional because you want to be taken seriously by the people that are looking at you.
Yeah, absolutely. Your coworkers, you're the people you're surrounded by. You want to be seen as, okay, I'm taking this seriously. And at the highest level, you have to, because if they see that weakness, right, they're going to capitalize on it.
Yeah, 100%.
I find that adversity thing, that's so interesting too, because you see that all across the board with people is like the hunger that it takes to get there, and sometimes having to rise through that adversity, that hunger that it gives you even more of. It's always been an impressive thing. Same thing for me is I got into it strictly because I was passionate about it, just because I honestly stumbled into it, right? Like I never had any plans for this. I never trained any martial arts, nothing like that.
Well, let's talk about that. Like, how did you go from rugby player to MMA fighter? How did that happen?
Well, so rugby and hockey is what I played when I was in high school. And, so both contact sports, I always, that's what I did as a kid. I was roughhousing, always, playing always rough sports, always outside, running through the mountains, running through the prairies, running through ponds, anything I could get my hands on, diving into the rivers, bridge jumping. So always physical things and like getting outside and rough physical games. And that's always the way I was. Right. And then competing as I got into hockey and rugby, Bob Ram, I started, those guys, I started playing Rugby Alberta. And so competing, and that was that first taste of seeing, okay, the higher levels to these things, and, seeing, okay, that's exciting. That the competitiveness started to be built in me even more. Before It was just, I love the game. I like playing hockey. It's fun. I like competing. I like that. It's fun. But then seeing another level and being like, whoa, what does competition actually mean to me? I want to compete. I want to beat this guy. This guy's making the team. My first tryout. So for U16, my first year for U16, I got cut. And that was the first time, that I ever felt like, hey, sorry, you're not, you're a good athlete. You're doing these things. It's fun to watch you play, have fun, but you're not quite at this level. And that first maybe that was my first actual taste of some of that, a bit of adversity, being told no in that sense. And like, that just built the competitive fire in me. Right. And then, so I played Rugby Alberta kind of till U18, played Wolfpack, traveled around Canada a bit, and for nationals, traveled for that. And then I went to university after I was done that. So 2010, I graduated, went to university in 2011. So I took a year off and then went back.
Okay.
And
Where'd you go to school?
I went to the U of L.
Okay.
And not a very good student. Not a good student at all. It was a little bit more about boozing and partying and just having a good time. And that's where my focus was, I was in classes that I was interested in, but I didn't care about it. I didn't have a passion for it. And so it was just party. It was just time to spend partying. Right. And so I started partying there and then started playing Trolls Rugby, which is just a club rugby team.
Okay.
And it was a blast. Like so much fun. But it's much like beer league hockey. It's, drink, play, drink, and a great time. Met a lot of great people. But as I kept playing, that competitive spirit in me, we're drinking and playing and losing. And I'm like, I don't like losing. Like I'm not, I don't want to do this and lose. Like maybe let's take this a little more seriously and win and then party after.
Yeah.
And
100%.
that's right. That's not what they were doing. And in all fairness, that's not what it was about. It was about just playing rugby and having fun.
Yeah. Just getting together and having a good time, which is fine. Like there's
good.
definitely
That's
a place for that.
Yeah, there's a place for it. And that's what that team was for. And it was a great time. But then I could see I didn't want to do that anymore just because I was just sick of losing it. And I was competitive in rugby. It was the first thing I really wanted to, I'd watch the All Blacks. And me and my dad were, my dad's from New Zealand, so he's obsessed with rugby. Yeah, so it's in the blood, right? So I love watching rugby with him. And I watch the All Blacks and you hear about that talk about a professional culture, right? Like an elite culture is that they're always preaching, how do we be the best? How do we represent the best rugby there can be? And so that was kind of ingrained in me. And then from there, I started kickboxing because I was not having fun playing that rugby. And I started at PFA and I was hooked. From there on, I was hooked. I kind of had a very limited amount of martial arts experience. I just had one buddy who had trained Muay Thai and, a good friend of mine, Thomas Harris. So shout out to Thomas Harris. But so we would hit pads before I went to PFA. We'd hit pads and, fight in the backyard, literally dust storms as we're boxing each other, just backyard brawl. And he'd teach me some Muay Thai and, we're dropping each other, getting back up. Hey man, that was a great time. Head off to work.
Head off to work.
Yeah, literally. We worked together. We're janitors at a care home. So we go, sometimes we do, sometimes we spar at lunch hour. Okay, no, go back to work, go finish our shift. Right. Sometimes we spar after work, sometimes we spar before.
Are you rolling in with bloody noses and black eyes and stuff?
Oh, yeah, only me, because he was much faster, much longer, knew Muay Thai very well, teaching me. No, we took pretty good care of each other in that sense, but definitely, a couple times where we'd be limping in from my first time checking a low kick. Be like, oh, I've never felt that before.
Okay, so what does that feel like, man? Because I've never checked a low kick. I gotta ask.
And this is with shin pads on, and I first felt it with shin pads on, and it just feels sharp, bruising. And with shin pads, it wasn't that bad looking back. But the first time, I took a good solid, checked the good solid kick, thin shin pads, and I'm walking in, and I have a little bubble on my shin, and it's just feels like a real solid Charlie horse or stub toe, but it stays there.
Right.
So it's that bruising. It stays there for a couple of days.
So I'll take a pass on that.
Yeah. Definitely don't need that too much. The next time I felt the serious one was without shin pads, was in my 5th amateur fight. I threw probably 6 or 7 hard low kicks, and Colin, I can't remember his last name. He was for Fight Force in Montana. Okay. And he checked 2 of them, good, perfect checks. And I remember the next day, that's all I could think of. I couldn't walk. I was off my leg for probably 2 weeks, just first time, full solid checks. And
really,
yeah, it was bruised up. And
so you just ice pack that and ride it out, or what?
Yeah, ice pack that and ride back to Alberta. Quick trip back from Montana to Alberta. Those are great trips too, but.
See, and to me, those are the things too. And you said those were amateur fights. Am I safe in assuming you were doing that for free?
Yeah, that was for free. That was completely the love of the game. Yeah.
Yeah,
which
for me, that's what it boils down to, though, right? Because if you're willing to take that for nothing, that shows me a different type of passion.
Yeah, and that is, to me, that's the story of what my martial arts journey is. It's strictly just passion. I just kind of, like I said, I just stumbled into it. I did it with a friend in the backyard, which is, not a lot of training, and then no competitiveness in rugby. Started at PFA, and a couple of months later, my coach is like, "Hey, I got a fight for you." He's like, "I got a fight for you. Are you willing to take it?" That was the Taylor Macklin fight. I was like, you know what? I had been training for 2 months, and it was about a month away from that. So 3 months in, and I was like, yeah, I'm loving this. I'll give it a shot. Sure. What can it hurt just to get in? And that was really the moment that fell in love. Is that first amateur fight. I'm in the crowd, and like I like to be a bit of a showman, as you can tell. I like to fire the crowd out. That's the one thing is I want to put on a show, and it's something I love. So I want to show the people what I love and let them see it. And that is the passion. Is I completely fell into this. It's not for money. It's strictly to enjoy myself, put on good fights for the fans, put on a show and challenge myself. I know what I can do. So let's see how far I can push it.
Well, I mean, your record speaks for itself at 9-2. So you're doing well. Like it can't hurt that this next card's on Fight Pass. Yeah,
it's exciting. It's super exciting, actually. The Unified cards, because I hurt my shoulder, so I'm out on the next Unified.
Oh, shit,
but I will still be fighting on Unified next. So we'll see when it is. I hope that card is going to be insane though on December 17th.
Right.
Have you seen the lineup for it?
I have. I was checking it out. I'll still watch it. Like it's
yeah. But the next one I'm on, you'll definitely have to watch. Make sure you tune in on that one.
Oh, for sure, man. And we'll have to get you on again too. Like
that'd be awesome. Yeah,
man.
Right before.
We got to promote this shit.
I love it. Let's keep sending it for sure.
Well, I mean,
I'll make sure I'll keep you posted on all of the upcoming info.
Yeah, man. I try. Well, I follow you on the Twitter machine now, which I'm kind of shitty at, but
it's hard.
I'm the worst social media guy in the league. Like if I'm not swearing at somebody, I just don't post.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm right there with you, and it's that's the funny thing is it's kind of part of my job. So on the professional side, the social media side is definitely where I lack the most, but it's an exciting place to try and get better at anyways.
Well, you know what I mean? I guess you gotta get to a certain point where you just go like Conor McGregor and just say a bunch of outlandish shit and then delete it.
Yeah, how am I supposed to filter myself here? It gets you're walking on a tightrope sometimes.
Well, and I mean you can't please everybody, so I think if you just be yourself, and then people, especially when you get you're getting to a point now where you're going to start developing a pretty big following. I think, to me, you're one of those guys that when you look at what's around you in those weight classes, you're kind of on the cusp for sure of making that next step, right?
Definitely, the plan is just to start hunting that next tier.
Yeah, for sure. So all you can do is just be yourself, and the people that know your heart, and the rest can eat shit. That's
right. Yeah, actually, that's the best way to look at it.
Like, they can only cancel you if you care. That's the way I look at it. Like, we all say dumb shit sometimes. We all have said things we wish we could take back. But when you get to a certain level, people assume that you're not human anymore, that you're somehow super accountable. It's like, no, I'll still say dumb shit. Like,
Yeah, especially just through that lens of the phone to the social media, where there feels like there's this big disconnect when, at the end of the day, you're right. It's just we're all humans just getting through it, and we make mistakes. So yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Is the people on your side, great. The rest of them, have a great day. See you soon. Yeah, I like what Chandler says, where he just is straight up, just see you at the top. Like, if you want to come with me on the ride to the top, then jump on. Otherwise, I'll see you there when you get there, kind of thing.
You're not coming with then, sucker. Right?
Yeah. See it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Take the long road.
Well, and that's the thing. And the other thing is, if you're not, I don't believe if you're not for me or against me, but I believe if you weren't there for me at the beginning, when I do get to the top, I'm not going to accept like, oh, maybe I was too hard on you. Yeah, no, you can still kiss my ass. Yeah. Don't just turn on the bright lights now. Don't start sucking up to me now just because you made it, right? And you see that all the time. That's a pretty common story, I think, too, is guys, family, friends, people surrounding you that aren't there for you, and then all of a sudden you're famous, and it is, right? Or you have a following, whatever it is. Well, you probably even got family members, and you'd never hear the whispers, right? But it'd be like, man, that big nasty Tom, he ain't shit. I'll whoop his ass. Like, no, you won't. Shut up. And then all of a sudden you make it big, like, man, Tom, you're the best. I always knew you had it.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky, honestly. For my surrounding is I got pretty much overwhelming support. you know, there's a couple keyboard warriors and people aren't just people online, and like you can never get, you're never going to avoid that. But my surrounding is pretty overwhelmingly supportive. The one group is that gives me a hard time is all the kids at the gym, and that's just a good thing. They just keep me honest, you know. I'll be going in it, and they'll give me that look. Hey Tom, one day I'll get you. Don't you worry. And I now got to be on my toes all the time. I walk in the gym, expect someone jumping out of the coat rack, throwing on a choke or something. You know?
That's how they do, man. That's what your kids do. I used to coach high school wrestling, and you know, you kind of spend a year beating on them, and then by the end of the year, these 20 little buggers just pound you, right?
And they start to, you know, it's like with anything when you're grappling, especially martial arts, but you start to feel their energy, their flow, and you know, some of the 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds at the gym right now, they're strong. They're playing and working up to play professional hockey. You know, they're big, strong athletes. And I'll be thinking, okay, you know, skill wise, I know jujitsu. And then I get a hold of my arm and I'm like, okay, you know, don't just give this to him. Make sure I crush him, get above him, get him in tight side control, give him a good fist choke. Hey, you know where you're at. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it won't take long.
It's not that they'll never be able to beat you, but I always say, like, make sure you have that on those young guys. Make sure you have those mental wins. That they know they've never beat you.
Yeah, it's the mental warfare, right?
Yeah, like that Coach Clive that I mentioned.
It's the dad to his son, you know, it's like it's that your grandfather. Then it doesn't matter. You can never beat me.
Yeah. Oh, that Coach Clive I mentioned. I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours upon hours in wrestling rooms with that guy. Never took him off his feet.
he had the one up on you, right?
He beat you like a Sunday morning hard on anytime he wanted.
You sneak up on the street, sneaking up behind him, you still end up on your back.
Yeah, man. Like I could probably pounce him. He could probably be sleeping on his back, and I still couldn't pin him. You know?
Yeah, that's hilarious, right? Yeah. But and that goes to that edge, which is funny because you talk about the mental warfare of it in the, you know, we're in joking, and you see that with the kids, and you inspire the kids to just want to push it, and that's good. They're playing, but you see it at the highest level too, where one person has the other person's number, and it's you know, you'd be like, you think 10 times, you know, put this person in a fight 10 times, these two in a fight 10 times, it probably goes more close to 5-5, you think, and then they fight 2 or 3 times, and not the case at all. That guy just can't, whatever it is. Sometimes you think it's style, but I think the mental warfare is so huge, which I think you see with like Conor McGregor's rise. It was really obvious. He was built, you know, he built himself to beat up Jose Aldo. Well, and then Jose gets it. It's so strange. Yeah. How does that fight happen? You know, that rushes in and just gets caught. 3 seconds or whatever it was.
13 seconds, I think that fight
13 seconds.
Right?
Oh.
Yeah, one of the greatest champions of all time got knocked out in 13 seconds.
And then that era just shifts, right?
Yeah. Well, Conor had an aura. Him and Ronda Rousey. The timing was perfect. MMA was just really hitting its stride. All of a sudden, you've got this pretty girl that can kick ass and take names. You've got this brash, cocky Irish, and everything you say with an accent sounds better.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. Don't try and trash talk with him because it just sounds better.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what he says.
Yeah, and on top of that, he was good at it. You know.
Yeah, he can talk some mad shit.
He's really good at it. Yeah.
Yeah, he can talk some shit. So, and
it was a
go ahead.
Cool era to see that, like that switch where it just happened so fast.
For sure. But then I think there's also a point of diminishing returns. And I think Conor's seeing some of that now. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to kick a guy while he's down because, you know, I don't see him as down.
No, yeah. It's hard to, it's like just, and when you really get into watching lots of fights, and, you know, there's people who just watch occasionally, but when you watch a lot of fights, like I know you haven't, you start to see, well, it's actually, you know, a lot closer than you think. And yeah, you know, even the Khabib, it gets beat, but Khabib, that we're talking about it being a matter of, you know, centimeter, matter of second is like, in my opinion, Khabib beats him, you know, the 9 times out of 10 or whatnot. But it's crazy how close it truly is. And one thing that one thing that just has to happen. Right?
Well, the thing is, man, like Khabib can control distance, he can control the grappling, and to me, that's one of the most important things.
Huge,
but
you control the
Conor had that power that any time, man, if he clips you,
his timing too, just the timing on it. I think you're right in the sense that I don't know if he's as much down, but it's just, I think, you know, the bit of it, not any of his skill set or his attributes or what he has done, I don't think is a mirage, but that mental, like, you know, for a long time, he was the mental giant, right?
Yeah.
If you could call him, like,
He
he's a
brought
mental
that
giant.
aura, man. People were just
That
afraid
aura,
of him.
right? And it felt unbreakable. And then you get a guy like Poirier, a perfect example, is like, you know what? He's been in the sport for so long, you know, and he even admitted in the first fight, got sucked into it. Well, it was, you know, an astounding aura. But then the next one, he's like, what did I do? You know, like, I know what I'm doing. Like, you question yourself for a second. Well, that's the end. If you have no doubt in yourself whatsoever, then, you know, you're got really good. You're right on to level playing field.
Truth is, and I think it's really, really easy to say this from the comfort of my basement. I don't want to make that clear. But I think Poirier had a reason to be confident going into that fight, because I'm not saying that Conor McGregor still isn't a good fighter. I'm not saying he still isn't a great fighter. But when you lose those years of development and the other guys like yourself keep grinding, that's big, right?
Yeah, it's time under pressure.
Yeah, man. When you're a straight up striker and that's all you do, and you take 3 years off and don't grapple with anybody, that's going to be detrimental. It has to be.
True point. Yeah. And especially if you're already, you're already a bit behind in the grappling, because his movement and stuff is good. And even in that Khabib fight, like, that original shot, he fought it off quite well. You know,
yeah. Oh yeah. His takedown defense was there.
It was pretty good up until he got tied up against the fence, right? And
he's going to get everybody.
Too bad you're in Khabib's world. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
But the initial, like, his movement, and I know that was a big part of things, like being able to move very, like, he's very free flowing in his movement, and, you know, his body is loose, he's long, so he does.
But karate stance too gives him a fluid, you know, gives him a real
fluidity, and all of a sudden I think like that. But then you go away from it. Well, like you said, people just catch up or in Poirier's case, pass you, right? It's like,
yeah, and again, like, people, I don't want to go, like, he broke his leg, and you know, you could say, well, he lost the fight because he broke his leg. No, he was losing that fight anyways. Like, that's not bullshit. He wasn't winning that fight.
I agree. It wasn't looking good up to that point, and that didn't help the situation at all. But the shift, to me, the shift seemed pretty clear. You could almost see it from the start, honestly, in my books. But
yeah, Poirier he just owned him. He was, to me, Poirier right now, he's just chasing his destiny. He's like, this is, you know, he's so calm about it because it's what he's meant to do. It's time.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's that natural, you know, you can't fake that type of confidence where the time, the effort, the energy has been put in. And then you have no doubt in yourself, and the results, let the cards fall where they may, right? Is whatever happens, but you have no doubt in yourself. That's when, especially in fighting, you're willing to, you know, come back home on your shield, as the saying goes. You're willing to die in there, and that's when you're going to be at your best, especially in a combat sport.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the confidence has to carry over too when you climb the top of the mountain, and the greatest that's ever been is at the top, and then that guy leaves, and you've now climbed back to the top of that mountain. No disrespect to Charles Oliveira, but I really think it's Poirier's destiny. I really think
I'm super excited for it, because I feel like same thing is the take is I'm torn in that take, which way to go with that. But partially it's just I'm such a big fan of them both. But I feel like Oliveira is in a similar stage in it. Both those guys have been in the UFC for so long, and like competing at a high level, putting up awesome performances for so long, never not taking a fight from someone. You know, they fought all types of fighters. So it's just like their style is pretty honed in.
Right. That's one thing too. One thing I look for is you don't hear anything negative about either of those guys.
Yeah, they're badasses. I agree.
Yeah, you don't hear anyone talk shit about them really that doesn't want to fight them. You know what I mean? Otherwise,
there's going to be the we're hyping up a fight, and they'll say all these things about them while selling tickets, whatnot. But you don't hear many. You don't hear any bad stories, bad takes about them. Personality wise, pretty overwhelmingly, everyone's a big fan of them. Yeah, for sure. Speaking of big fans, I noticed in one of your interviews there, you were wearing a Kid Dynamite hoodie. I actually have that. I have that in a T-shirt. I'm a huge Mike Tyson fan myself. That's awesome, eh? Actually, do you know who Arturo Gatti is? I do, yeah, boxer, but not well, right? But okay. Well, he to me, he represents such a fighting spirit. So I wore this shirt for you today because, like, the heart you show in your fights is
Yeah,
That's
if you
awesome.
didn't have time, man, sit down and watch Arturo Gotti and Mickey Ward. There's 3 fights.
I've definitely seen clips of it, and like I've seen some of that era of boxing, but I haven't dove into it enough.
Oh man,
I'll
those
have to
guys,
watch all
they're
3 of those.
just
And
standing in phone booths wailing on each other.
I'll be watching it tonight then.
Yeah.
Literally after this, I'll be diving into it for sure.
Yeah, man. Those are my favorite trilogy of fights. Like those 2. It's and it was, I think, probably because it was at the era when I really first started.
How did it go? I mean, I'm
not telling you anything.
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Yeah, you got to watch it, man.
That's awesome. I will
gotta watch it. And yeah, it's one of those. If you're a huge boxing fan, even if you're just a straight up fight fan,
yeah,
it's not. I mean, they're 147 pounders, I think. 100, you know what I mean? So they're working. They are working.
The pace is just insane.
It's unbelievable.
12, right? 12 rounds.
Yeah. And the chins, like
boxing fans. So then you're boxing fan. What did you think of the Fury and Wilder?
Oh, forget about it.
Right?
Like Tyson Fury to me. And there, for some reason, there's people that don't like him. I don't really understand that. He's just
I don't know how you can't like him.
He's like the sweetest big brother, right? Like he's just this nice guy.
He's like the best at shit talk, but not by being rude per se, just by being honest. I seen a video the other day and I just thought it was like hilarious, just classic, gypsy style. I love that too.
Just telling the truth, right?
Yeah, he's the Paul, or what is his name? Paul. I don't even want to. We don't even want to almost comment about him on.
Oh, I know who you're talking. Yeah. You don't want his name to leave your lips.
Yeah, you don't even want to say it, right? But and he asks, and he's like, "You were a big fan of me before," and he's saying all this, and he's like, "I know you were a big fan. You said it," and he's like, "Yeah, well, that was then. Now I think you're a dweeb or whatever he said. I think I think you're an idiot or whatever." It's just like, yeah, I liked you back then. Don't put words in my mouth. I think you're an idiot now or whatever. Yeah, classic gypsy stuff.
One of them's fighting his brother.
Yeah, that's what it is. So it's Tommy Fury, Jake Paul. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, and I did hear Tyson Fury say if Tommy loses, he has to change his name from Fury.
Yeah, he can't. Yeah, he doesn't get to live under the Fury name, right? That's exciting. Yeah.
Could you imagine though? That would be. I don't want to jinx it. That'd be embarrassing, man.
Yeah, that'd be harsh. Yeah. It's funny. I did a grappling tourney, so we'll be putting another one on in the future here. But we did a hike, so we hike up a mountain.
What's the name of the tournament? The
grappling tourney is going to go so it's Wilder Jits.
Okay.
So we hike mats up a mountain. Then we do people can camp there if they want. We do the jiu-jitsu tourney and then hike the mats back down, I think. And there was 2 guys that came on this first trial of the tournament, both named Josh. And so that's what we said. We said, you know what, whoever wins out of you guys in your match, you win the name for the year. Next year, you'll have to challenge for it again. So one of them wins and one of them had to use their last name for the rest of the day and whatnot. And I was like, sort of tough take there.
Yeah, that's dynamite. That's actually dynamite though. So what kind of a hike are we taking it? Like
we did Window Mountain Lake, the last one. So that's out in Crow's Nest Pass area. And it's about there's actually a road where you can travel up quite a bit in a car, not too low, but you can climb up quite a bit. And so you basically, if I remember, you can do like a 5K from the bottom, or you can drive up and it can be a 3K. So it's not a huge distance, but it's a nice hike too. It was cool. You go this real steep cliff bank and you go up it and then you break through and it's like this, magical forest. You walk through it and then you're at the lake and there's a green space. So we set it there.
That sounds pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It's just kind of a random, me and a buddy just kind of ran Josh, the Josh that got the name for the week.
The real Josh.
The real Josh until next year. So yeah, we kind of came up with it and we thought it'd be a cool idea. So we just had people come up. I got to do it next year where I, take an entry fee and stuff, and then see if we can give whatever we make, just give it to Crow's Nest Conservation.
Nice.
Call it a day.
Well, that's a beautiful area, man, to pass.
Oh, right. And that's the thing is the amount of hikes that are up there are just insane. Eventually I'm thinking, well, you could do, a small, maybe a 1 kilometer or even off the road somewhere where, families are way easier, or you do a long one where some of the savages, there's some mountain hiking savages that would love to do jujitsu up there.
Some of you those jujitsu guys are savages anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't even like hiking, and they're going to hike just to go get a roll in, you know?
Yeah, like the gym's closed today. Why? Because we got to hike up the mountain. So I got to hike up the mountain to roll. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. If that's what you say, we'll do it.
All right. Thanks, coach. Thanks for the hike.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a pretty good experience too. It was, you know, right by the lake, jump in after for a cold dip, get the cold dip in. The body feels good afterwards. It was kind of a win-win.
Nice. Now, do you do ice baths? Do you do ice baths and shit like that?
Yeah, I do. And I like just cold baths, cold showers. I do.
Right.
You know, going back to the discipline thing is I'm not as disciplined on that stuff as I'd like to be. I'd like to be a bit more of the routine, but I do. I probably, you know, 3 days of the week, boom, I'm on it. And the rest is, you know, scattered. But
well, it's tough with the work schedule, right? Like, geez.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's craziness, right? Putting the schedule in and especially putting in the tub. But the cold showers, that's what I'll start like in the morning. That's what I have the most consistently. If you're mid training camp, you can't beat an ice bath, right?
Right. Yeah. Our coach used to make a sauna and then cold shower, and then just go back and forth, sauna, cold shower, sauna, cold shower.
Just the amount of information that's coming out about hot cold therapy too, right? And doing those two extremes and the heat stress and the cold shock stress. It's pretty cool to see how much that's coming out and how popular.
And this was all that Coach Clive, man. He had us doing this shit way before it was cool.
The wrestlers, man, I'm telling you, same thing about that wrestling coach I have is Vlad, and he just was on top of everything.
What's Vlad's last name?
Vlad Tartinov.
I don't think I know him.
So he's up in Calgary now. He's actually up in Calgary, working now. And so, but he's from the Ukraine, and so I just kind of stumbled into him, and he noticed my cauliflower ear, and he's like, "Where do you wrestle? You wrestle, don't you?" And so I brought him down, and then from there on, I was like, "I want to know. I want to learn what you know. Please teach me anything you know," kind of thing. And from there, just learned everything. And he had so many cool tricks, you know, and like just little things that make up the little difference. Like we're cutting weight, and he's like, you know, you get closer, you know, good soups, cabbage, things like that. Tea right before bed, decaf, but tea right before bed and a little citrus. And my cuts all way easier. So that's what I'll do now. I'll get closer. My dinner will be, you know.
Well, those Eastern Europeans have it figured out.
They have it's a science to them, right? They take it. 100%. And we're talking about being professional and making the inches make up to the mile. Well, those guys have mastered that. They even go to weightlifting, all those, the training that comes from that German system, right?
Oh, yes.
The wrestling from the Ukraine, Russia, all those systems, they have it down pat. Like,
they're machines, man. They are machines. Like when I was, I'm trying to think, I don't even know. I might have been first year it was either in grade 12 or the first year of high school. When I was wrestling with Calgary Amateur Wrestling, we hosted the Russian junior national wrestling team for a week. And on a technique level, we could kind of wrestle with them. Tournament wrestling was a little bit different. I found they were definitely, you know, than most of us mentally tougher. I think we were all intimidated a little bit. We'd watch too many Rocky IV movies and shit, you know?
Yeah.
So, but the one thing that astounded me is like, we could all wrestle, but they could do everything. Like one day after practice, we said, okay, their coach says, let's do tumbling, like gymnastics tumbling.
Yeah.
Every guy on their team could do like back handsprings, front flips, back flips, whatever they wanted. Do you know what I mean? We could do like cartwheels, somersaults. We had one guy that could keep up with them. Out of like 30, 40 guys, we had one guy that could keep up.
Yeah, it's just and you see the gap, you know what I mean? It's pretty cool to see, but you also understand, and it makes sense how it's so ingrained in their culture to, you know, start that young. And if you are passionate about it, go into it, be dedicated. Like we're saying, be disciplined. You want to be a wrestler? Well, be a wrestler, right? And I don't know if it's just, I'm not sure, but if it's Western society or what it seems, where it's, you know, try this, okay, feel like this, try this. And that's all fine. And that's good too, is, you know, do what you want. But
I've
like
had the opinion that we have too many choices, man.
It's time spent, right? It's just time spent doing what you're doing. And all of these things that demand you to be skilled, to be skilled, it takes time. You have to develop skills. Yeah. And we're saying, you know, even Conor McGregor, like you see that the grappling separation, you know, is like, they're all in the top 1%. And the disparity of his grappling knowledge to Khabib's it's a world. It's a different planet. Right. And so you see
Conor, it's just a matter of time till you wrestle an Olympic champion that's going to get a hold of you.
Yeah. Like, right? Yeah. And what do? You got to make sure you have a plan. And that's the beautiful thing about martial arts is, there is a lot of ways to win. There's a lot of ways to win, and you can develop a good strategy to beat anyone, any style. You can do it. And applying it is a different story.
Yeah.
The roadmap is there. It's just you gotta put your feet down and actually do it.
Well, to Mike Tyson's point, right? We all got a plan until we get punched in the face.
Yeah, I love it. Hickson who said you punch him once, they go from black belt to brown belt. Punch him again, they go brown belt to purple belt. Punch him again, for the jiu-jitsu. Don't worry about it. Punch them, they just work their way down. Yeah. Every time you hit them, they lose a belt.
So have you ever had the opportunity, or have you ever considered going and trying to kind of train at a Gracie gym? Is that sort of like a mecca thing for you?
Yeah, for jiu-jitsu wise, I would like to go train, more with Joe Moreira. He's a very high level jiu-jitsu player that I'm really close to. So him, Calgary in Tilt MMA has Anderson Goncalves, who's a black belt in there. So the more I can get up there, Jesse Arnett, as you know, he's a black belt, or I don't know if I'm pretty sure he's a black belt under Anderson. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so jiu-jitsu lineage wise, but that is one of, like you said, I'm passionate about it. So I want to travel everywhere and learn jiu-jitsu. I want to go see Marcelo in New York. I want to go and see all the great jiu-jitsu practitioners all around the world and just soak up as much as I can. Same thing for Muay Thai is and wrestling is I want to go and surround myself with the best and learn from them. That's a lifetime goal, is to just pursue martial arts and learn martial arts as much as I can for as long as I can. That's outside of MMA and some of my goals in MMA, but that's what I would like to do. So I would like to go live in Thailand for a year or 2 years, whatever that would look like.
Your Muay Thai is good, man.
Right?
Like, since your early fights, your Muay Thai is good.
Yeah. Credit to Brad the Brick Wall and Trevor Hardy. They've been dedicated on working on my Muay Thai. So
yeah,
and just striking in general, right?
Well, you're clinch, man. When you get hold, that nobody gets away.
Yeah, it's funny that it mixes up, right? It's putting it all together, and that's one of the things I love about trying to build my style. That's a big part of my style. Is I'm not just dedicated to one or the other. I want to be going through striking to grappling, and you never know. You start striking with me. Well, I'm not going to resist you and strike with you. I'll grapple. Will you start grappling with me? Perfect. Let's strike. You know what I mean? That's path of least resistance is my game plan, really. It doesn't look that way because it looks like just a bunch of resistance.
Well, and that's what's great about it, right? Like, it's, people ask me why I love wrestling and why I'm so, and jiu-jitsu to me is wrestling to the next level, to be frank.
Grappling.
Right?
Yeah. I really put them all under the umbrella of grappling.
But I always say, like, I got a friend that's a football coach, and I grabbed him in a, some people call it a Russian armbar or 2-on-1. And I grabbed him and he brought his hand up to my head. And the first thing I did, and then I let go this hand, trapped that hand and pulled it over to this side. And then he went to pull his hand up and I pushed his arm up into his other arm and took his leg. And he's like, and he kind of looked at me. I was like, I wanted the leg all along, man. Yeah.
You make him think here, make him think high. Okay, I'll go along.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, seriously? I was like, yeah, man, I'm thinking 3 things ahead of what you think I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that to me is that mental chess. And then not only am I'm using all of my physical force to try and exert my will, while also having to use all of my physical will to resist all of your physical force.
Yes.
No other sport does that. I mean, maybe a lineman in football, but a play lasts 4 seconds. I don't want to minimize how hard that is.
No. The elite level and everything, that's so subjective on that note. But I definitely feel that with martial arts it's because it's constant, right? It's like, you can't give an inch. They'll take it. That's what I love about wrestling is you give space, they'll take it.
Yeah.
And you see that you go clinch and boom, lock. It's literally like, 2 male. Yeah. They lock. And it's just this, like, you can't give any space because they'll take it from them. But at the same time, you're trying to advance positions and move from A to B to C to the finish. And you can't, if I'm trying to force you one way, well, then you're natural. If you just force back, well, I let you go, and that's that good mentality. The real chess game of it, being one to move ahead and knowing I'm just going to put pressure here to make you think I want that. Oh, you bit? Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Or I'm just going to often to take what you give me.
Yeah.
Right? If you get the opportunity to watch a guy fight and you watch that he gets better, he gets sharper, but his fighting style doesn't change, there's always stuff he's giving you.
Yeah. They're going to give it to you. Right. And it's funny that we're talking about this, because from the Joe Moreira curriculum, that's one of his big lessons is he'll teach is, if you follow your principles, then you have nothing to worry about, because where they want to go, you help them go. Let them go there. Where they want to go, let them go. They'll give you something. They're going to leave something for you. They'll give it to you.
Take them.
And it's not about it takes too much energy to take something.
Yeah.
Right. You just be in the right position at the right time, and they'll give it to you.
Well, and it makes them comfortable and complacent. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's the chess game, right? Is getting them to that point. To me, anyways. And really, I think both of us, we feel that that's the most fun in it. I love the training. I love learning it, but I want to learn it so that I can beat them at chess. I don't want to just stand toe to toe. I hit you, you hit me. I love playing the tough game, and I've done it a little bit too much in the past. Rugby, okay, this big guy. You know what? He's not very big. I'm bigger.
I can take that. You punch hard though, bro. For a 155, 145, you have power.
Yeah, thank you. I'll have to credit that back to Brad the Brickwall and Trevor Hardy for just beating into me the importance of mechanics.
Yeah. There's a couple guys you hit, man, with a jabber. There's one guy you hit with an overhand right. You kind of walked in and hit him with it, and you could tell he was just like, "Oh shit."
Doesn't want any more of it. Right?
No, I don't think that fight got out of the first round.
The only ones that I found, the times that I've only felt that where I can tell, because I haven't been doing boxing and stuff or striking for that long, really. Just since I started all of it at once. No martial arts, and then
you started from ground zero,
and I dove into all aspects of it. I love the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, grappling, and the striking, whether it's boxing or kickboxing. I dove into it all at once. And I kind of am grateful that it was that way, so that I didn't have any certain tendencies or any certain habits, holding me back from one to the other. But the power and striking, the only time I've really felt it, which has been in multiple fights where I've hit them, and I'm like, I knew that landed, Chris. I knew that I hit them hard, and I knew they felt the power of it.
Right.
And that only ever came with good timing, being in good position and throwing with, I was balanced. Because I've been at, other fights, maybe not necessarily in the ring or not, or other altercations where I've done it. And if I'm off balance, it's like, well, maybe I got lucky. Maybe I hit him and I hurt him. But when the times in the fights where I felt, hey, there was, in my third amateur fight, I was Ryan, and I landed a lead head kick on him, and I could see, rewatching it, I'm like, oh, I actually did turn over, but it didn't feel like it. It felt like I landed in position and pushed on him and just closed the distance. But as I watched the video, and I'm like, it felt, it's one of those shots, it felt effortless. Right place, right time, right body mechanics.
Yeah, you just did it.
It was just reactionary land. It was the time in the gym was already put in, so I didn't need to think. Throw the lead high kick, It just, he was there, boom, hit him with the lead high kick. My hip turned over. I was bound. I landed again, and I could follow it up. I was, I've thrown it 100 times in training, and I throw it, and I'm about to fall over.
Yeah, and you're almost like, holy shit, it worked.
yeah, right. It's like surprising. Oh, it's supposed to be that easy. That's when you go with those masters, like your coach, and you never get. And that's what they make it feel like. It's like they show you something, and you're like, it can't be that easy, and it's hard for you. And then they do it to you, and you're like, oh, it's this easy to them. Right time, right place, the right body mechanics.
Well, the one thing that we used to get asked all the time is you'd be watching a video of something you were doing, and the coach would say, like, what are you thinking here? And you'd go to answer, and you'd take the bait every time because you're an idiot. And he'd be like, what are you thinking here? And you'd go to tell him what you were thinking. He'd go, that's the problem. You shouldn't be thinking. You should just be doing. Like, it just happens.
It has to just happen. It has to just be action. Don't think, just do.
It took me a long time to figure that out.
Yeah, it's hard to, especially, it's like for me, I'm right in it right now. I'm trying to compete right now, and I'll say it, and it's in my notes, and I think about it regularly, and it's part of what I want to do in my practice. But I'll still regularly catch myself where I'm like, thinking too much, doing too little.
Right. Now, how'd you hurt your shoulder? What happened there?
I was on just training, which is literally the worst timing, right? Is I got told about the fight on Thursday. Fight I was super excited about. Real game opponent, another guy in Alberta that's just on a tear.
And
Craig
you canceled
Shanahan.
two, is that the guy you've canceled 2 fights with?
I've canceled on, yeah, and so
Yeah.
that's the thing is I got a little bit of flack online or whatever. People are.
I'm not saying you
and,
canceled. Sorry, I don't want to come across that way. I just noticed they
no,
had.
I did cancel. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, and it's the way it is, but the people upset about it, and I get from their side, that's the way it looks, and so I understand that too. Is like I wouldn't be that happy either. So.
You know what, man?
But from my side, it was.
I'm going to say this all out. Fuck those guys. How many of those guys have actually got into a cage? It's a bunch of assholes like me that have a keyboard sitting around in the basement, big balls because they can give, big nasty shit online.
Yeah, they were, and really at the end of the day, the way I see it is, they're supporting Craig, and they're going to be fans of Craig, and that's what a fan of Craig should do is be pissed off for Craig, right? So on that end, but. At the end of the day is, I see from their perspective, that's okay. I get it. From my perspective, it was a difficult decision, but at the same time, an easy decision is I had a guy's back. I got thrown off, landing on my shoulders, separated my AC joint.
That's that.
It was the day I got the fight, told to me I would do it on Thursday, happened on Friday. Literally told the fight was happened Thursday, happened on Friday. So I was like, you know what? AC joint, I can heal quite quickly from this. So I gave it 2 weeks. And still, I can't grapple. I can't hit pads. Even right now, as I can extend now. I can lift my arm above my head, but I can't hit. Right. And so I'm like, I'm not going to put myself in a position. I don't need to. I don't need to put myself in a position to go and put myself in a poor performance. And it's not even about. I want to perform for people. I want to put my best person out there, and that's that. To me, being professional and wanting to level up that's what I want to represent.
Well, you never go in, excuse me, especially for you guys in MMA. When I was wrestling, there was a season, so you got a chance to heal. There's no season for you guys. It's constant training. So you never go into a fight 100%. But there's a difference between going into a fight hurting and injured.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And just, like you said, the strategy of being just putting your best self out there. Of course, bumps and bruises. I'm aching. You got injuries, nagging injuries over time. We all have them. It's a rough sport. And that's another thing working with athletes is I see that all the time is it's not just MMA that's the world of being an athlete is your body's never 100%. The goal in training is to get you there and train smart. So you limit injury, right? The less injury, the better. We want to have healthy bodies long during the career and long after. Right. And so I think it's so important to stress that and just having the way I was saying it is, you show toughness through action, but through your decisions is what you show your intellect or your strategy. Right. And so making good decisions that's part of the game too. And that's what it came down to is I don't want to put together a poor performance or represent a poor version of myself. And that's what it is. I'm going to put in a good fight camp and do it. And
and not only that, man, we're not talking about, and legit, I don't want to minimize or maximize anything, but in pro wrestling, there's certain times when you have injuries that are legit injuries that you can work around. Do you know what I mean? Like we can work around it. But when you're in a fight, like, don't people understand this is a fight? Like this is, I can't really hit him that hard. Well, you should still fight anyway. Well, you should shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah, literally. Well, that's you're taking away all of my goals. Like, what am I supposed to do here? Right.
Yeah. So then what? I go in there, I can't defend myself with this hand. I can't fight with it. So then I just get the shit kicked out of me just to make you feel better. And
the training, that's the big thing for me is, even in the condition I'm happy to fight. I love fighting. I love being in there. I'm passionate about, there's nowhere else I'd rather be is being in there is I love competing and I love fighting. It's one of the craziest things. Like I said, I got hooked on it after my first fight. Get the cage door locks, touch gloves. It's me and him, and I stare across, and it's literally hunt or be hunted. And I love that. It's the thing I'm most passionate about in this world, honestly. Right.
Right.
And so on that side is that it was easy as I'd go fight them. No problem. But I want a training camp. I want to make sure I'm improving. And that was one of the things I really took away from the XFC is I see some of these guys. There's a couple guys there, ex-UFC fighters, and they've been at the highest level and talking and just being around them. And I'm like, these guys, they want to be the very best and they want to compete against the very best. And that's what it takes is putting together good training, making sure you're always improving. And my last fight with DeMonte, broke my hand, came in, good, okay, healed up. I'm finally hitting pads again. Boom, shoulder. It was a difficult decision to come to, but easy for me. Is I want to be able to train. I want to be able to have a training camp, make sure I'm better than my last fight.
Yeah, that's all you can do, man. You got to look
That's all you
after
can do.
yourself. It's about longevity, like you say. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, exactly. So, and
Now-
like I felt like I'm in the position to make that call too. Is I'm not, like I said, I'm passionate about this. I love doing it. So I'm going to make the right call for me. Pretty simple.
Yeah, you're not looking for the way out. You're taking care of yourself.
No. Yeah.
So
simple.
I have a question about the nickname Big Nasty. Where did that come from?
Yeah, that's small town kid, right? It's like, got a bunch of buddies, and they're all maniacs. And it was the time in the era of the Jackass. The videos Jackass are out. Everyone,
Yeah, you bet,
wants to do crazy pranks, and so that was my group of friends. Is we're hanging out with people. We'll be hanging out with each other. We're just a small group, and we want to do something crazy. Let's film. Let's go down a skateboard ramp being pulled by a truck. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Just all these. Just basically small
Did
town
you
jackass,
seriously do that?
right? Small town jackass. And so I was always willing to do, some of the more gross kind of, the gallon challenge, dump the milk puke on me, like things like that. It's just for the fun of it. And so the nickname came pretty naturally with that. Yeah.
That is nasty.
No fear out of that. And it's funny because now I say that too, as well. I'm not that big. And, I like to think I'm nasty, but I'm not that nasty. So the kids make fun of me. Tom, you're not very big. Aren't you? Shouldn't you be small nasty? I'm like, no, I'm bigger than you still. Right?
Yeah. Hey, I may be small in stature, but my nasty's big.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Represent the lifestyle. It's about the lifestyle of being nasty.
Yeah,
right?
it's a nasty lifestyle, right?
It's a nasty lifestyle. And,
People don't get it.
That's what I like. That's what my style in the ring is too, is you don't want to get in the way of that. It's a nasty style to get in the way of.
I think you need that t-shirt, bro.
Yeah, like that. Nasty style. Nasty
I actually used to
style.
have a t-shirt that just said "Get Dirty" on it.
Yeah, I like that too. That'll have to be the next one. It's literally nasty style. That'll be my next walkout shirt.
Yeah, there you go. Nasty.
Should be.
style.
It should be.
All right. On that note, brother, let's see. What's all your Twitter? What's your Instagram? What's all your
All
social
at Tom,
media?
All social media at Tom Big Nasty now. Yeah. So I finally switched it over. Tom Big Nasty.
That's awesome, man. Give my friend a follow. Excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Good
dude.
luck healing that shoulder up. Let's keep in touch. And we'll definitely get together again before your next fight.
Yeah, next time I'll know all about the Arturo and Ward fight trilogy, and I'll be able to talk to you about that and
We'll break it down.
Oh yeah, I'll note it down. We'll break it down. That sounds good. Thank you for having me on, Duke. That's awesome.
Thanks, buddy. Enjoy the
Duke, you suck.
You shut your mouth.